Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to another video here on Watts Wildlife. Today guys, we are going to be doing a little video to end out 2020 that is going to be taking a look at my top 10 favorite images that I took this year. It's been a pretty good year in terms of photography. In terms of just generally a year, it's been one of the worst in like 100 years. But yeah, it's definitely been an odd year for all of us with the virus. With everything that's gone on this year. It's been quite the year, but overall, like I said, in terms of photography for me, it's been a pretty good year. I was able to travel some really cool places, take some really cool photos, and I'm really happy with especially these 10 that I was able to come away with. And yeah, so we're going to jump right into it, taking a look from number 10, and we're going to work up from, you know, my 10th favorite all the way to my very favorite that I took this year, and work all the way through them all. And I'm basically just going to talk about each one, why I like it, why I chose it, and you know, the settings and what it was like taking the photo, tell a little story about the photo, all that stuff. And yeah, this is something that I've seen some other photographers do on YouTube, so I decided, you know what, why not do it to close out the year of 2020. And I'll probably do the same thing at the end of 2021, 22, so on and so forth. You know, maybe this will be our end of the year video each year. Take a look at my top 10 favorite images I took in that year. And you know, just kind of take a look back at the year so far. So starting here with number 10, we have one of the shots of the black wolf crossing the road in Yellowstone. And the reason I chose this photo is because of the story that this photo tells, not as much because of the photo itself. The photo itself is okay. The wolf is out of focus, which I kind of like, kind of don't like. It puts the focus on the people, which is the main part of the story here. But I don't know. It would have been nice if the wolf was a little more in focus here. And then also, I really don't like the placement of the wolf. I don't like these back legs that are kind of blending in with this area. It kind of makes the wolf blend in. If maybe you took this entire wolf with this exact, you know, same gesture and everything, same placement of legs, and you moved him somewhere up in here, just move him forward a little bit, this would be perfect with where the black would have contrast with this gray road, and it wouldn't really blend in back here. It would be a lot better. Unfortunately, my Canon 80D only takes 7 frames a second, so I was firing away here, but it just didn't get exactly the frame by the time the next frame was taken. He was a little farther over here, so yeah, this is the closest I got. But my point here is, this photo isn't the best in terms of just generally the photo. You know, like I said, not great focus on the wolf. Wish he was a little better placed. Focus is back here and all that. But the story this photo tells is what I like, and it's the reason I chose this photo. And it's basically just the story of a wolf living in Yellowstone and what that life is like. As you can see here, you've got tourists right here, family tourists, everybody looking through their binoculars, taking pictures. Same thing here. You've got a mom and her son here. She's kind of holding him back because obviously this is a very dangerous predator. But it is within, you know, just a couple of yards of them, 10, 20 yards of them, probably more like 30. But, you know, that kind of shows the danger in the photo and the danger of this animal that they recognize. Like I said, the family's watching on, the ranger watching on. You can see the truck with the lights. People pulled over on the side of the road. You've got the cones back here, which kind of, you know, automatically make you think caution and make you think, you know, something is going on here. And it also shows where the wolf was supposed to cross. But the wolf didn't cross there because the wolf isn't conforming to what we as humans have set up for it. And there's this thing called the Yellowstone paradox, and it's really the best way that I can explain all these factors that I've been talking about that tell a story of this image. And the Yellowstone paradox is the idea of this cultivated wilderness that Yellowstone is. It's a place where we put the natural order back in place. When we put the wolves back there, we had originally destroyed that natural order. We put it back in place. Now Yellowstone lives with that. It lives with that decision to put this wild place back to being wild. And these wolves and grizzly bears and these other animals that we have worked on, you know, rebuilding the populations of, have to live within the confines of Yellowstone. You know, we've built this, there's this box that's been drawn. That's the borders of Yellowstone. It's an imaginary box. It doesn't really exist. There are no fences. The animals can come and go as they please, and they don't know that box is there. We've drawn that box for them, though, and inside of that box, they're protected. Outside of that box, not so much. And the greater ecosystem is much larger than just the box that Yellowstone is. This place with many, many pressures coming in on all sides on it, with development all around it and all these multiple little cities, Montana, Wyoming, huge tourism area, but it's still very wild, and it still needs to stay wild for these animals. And the animals don't conform to the box that we've made to try to protect them. To put it more simply, this Yellowstone box is where we're trying to cultivate this cultivated wilderness that I mentioned earlier, and the ecosystem itself is actually much, much larger than our cultivation box, which is the Yellowstone boundaries. And when we tell it to stay in this box so that we can maintain it, it doesn't listen to us. That's what this image is showing on a small scale. The rangers specifically set up the cones you see here, and they blocked the road and stopped all the tourists and did everything that they did to give the wolf a place to safely cross, to cultivate a successful wolf crossing that didn't result in a dead wolf. And after all that work that they put in, the wolf didn't cross where they wanted it to. The wolf didn't conform to the boundaries of the rangers. On a small scale, basically, this is that Yellowstone paradox in action. The wilderness is ignoring our attempts to maintain it and to control it. I hope that made sense. That's basically what I was trying to get at. Anyways, that's what I love about this image. Now, additionally, there's sort of another story that I think is kind of told in this image as well, and that's sort of just the struggle of life as a wolf in Yellowstone generally, not on this grander scale of the Yellowstone paradox, but just being a wolf in Yellowstone and what that's like. And this image kind of tells that story a little bit too, with a focus on the people of Yellowstone that are watching this wolf. And you know, on, again, those people are part of the struggle. All these tourists, these family of tourists, the rangers, all this, the cars, it's all part of the struggle of life in Yellowstone. And I think this photo portrayed that pretty well, and that's why I ended up choosing this one. But like I said, the photo overall isn't that great. It's just the story behind the photo that I like, and that's why I made the top 10. Not so much because of the photo itself. The settings on this was ISO 250, f-stop of 5.6 and 1/500th of a second at 400 millimeters. And yeah, this was basically the best settings I could get. I didn't want to go beneath 1/500th because I wanted to freeze that motion on the wolf. I didn't want any blur on that. Wanted him to be as sharp as possible, but then he wasn't in focus, so that didn't work out. 5.6 wide open aperture so that I could keep my f-stop low. And, so that I could keep my ISO low, and I was able to keep it at 250 there, so not too bad on that. So yeah, now moving on to the next image here. We have a picture of my dog Pepper here, and this was just a really nice shot of him looking right into the camera, good composition and everything with the way he's placed in the frame. And I really like the dreamy look of it where you've got the light coming in over on this side and then you've got it dark over here. So I don't know, I just really liked the look of that, and was able to edit it with that dreamy sort of look, and he's got good gesture and looking right at the camera. You can see his collar down here with the little splash of blue there. Just really, really nice detail in it, and good lighting, good golden hour light. And overall, I just thought it was a nice photo of him. And that was taken on the 100 to 400. When I rented that, you'll notice a trend of 100 to 400 photos in here because that lens is so good. Even on the landscape photos, like even most of my landscape photos in here were taken with that lens, even though it's not really a landscape lens because it's just such a good lens. But my settings here were 1/800th of a second, f5.6, ISO 1000, 330 millimeters. 5.6 is the widest you could go at 330, I believe. So that's why I have it at that. And to, you know, obviously I wanted some blur back there behind him. ISO 1000 probably had to go for since I had it at 1/800th of a second. Probably could have dropped that a little bit and got my ISOs a little lower, but you know what? That lens handles ISO so well, and the ADD honestly handles them decently well for the camera that it is and for the price that it is. That, you know, there isn't really a problem here. If I zoom in, you can see not really any issues with ISO there. I may have added some denoise to this. That could be part of it too, but either way, you know, it's handled ISO as well, this photo has, so no problem there. Now moving on here to the next one. We have this pano shot here of Lamar Valley in the evening, and the reason I chose this shot is because it really just portrays that quintessential Yellowstone landscape there with the rolling hills in the back of the valley, the nice sagebrush covered hills. You can see back there if I zoom in, all that sagebrush all the way up these hills, dotted with trees. That's just quintessential Yellowstone there. That's what you'll see throughout most of the park. And you're getting some really nice golden light touching the hills there, some soft lighting, and I really like that. And I also like this sort of tight composition to where it's not as wide as it could be. This was taken with the 100 to 400, a pano with that lens, so it's not as wide as it could have been with a wider lens. But I took it tight and shot it as a pano of the whole range, and I think it's really nice. I think it's better than if I, you know, added some of the foreground with the plains in the front leading up to where we were and the actual valley down there. I think this puts the focus on the mountains, and I just really do like that. And I like that you can kind of zoom in and catch little details like this bison herd over here in the corner you can see there. And that kind of gives you a sense of scale for the size of these mountains and just how large and how much space there is up here on these mountains. Just massive. And this is only a small area of mountains. There in Lamar Valley, there's another bison there. So I like that you can kind of zoom in and see some of the details, some snow up top. This is actually called Specimen Ridge up here at the top of this mountain, and there is a hike up there. So that's pretty cool, but I just really like the colors and the lighting in this photo and the composition. That's why I included it here, and it really just portrays Yellowstone very well. Settings on this were 1/40th of a second, f5.6, ISO 400, and 100 millimeters. So I zoomed all the way out on that 100 to 400, took a nice pano there, and got my shutter speed as low as I could go, or as low as I was comfortable going. Even though I was on a tripod, I didn't want to go any lower with me panning and everything on the tripod. So did that, put ISO 400 and 5.6, and I think it came out really nice here. So yeah, I like that photo a lot too. Now moving on here, our next photo is this one that I took of the Teton Range. This was while we were out looking for Grizzly 399. Unfortunately, we didn't see her at all, as you know. Going to see her this summer. I'm going back and I'm going to see her this summer. But yeah, so this photo was taken while we were looking for her, and since we weren't seeing her, I was like, you know what, I'll shoot the Tetons. They've got some nice lighting there, and it came out really, really nice. I got low here. There's actually a road right in this area, and you can see the dust coming off of cars there. That's what all this kind of fog layer right here is. That's what that is. Well, it looks like fog. It's actually just dust from cars driving by. So everyone was out looking for 399. Nobody saw her, but that's what that was, a car going by that was out looking for the bears. And so I got low to block out the cars and the road, and you know, just didn't look nice in the photo, and that allowed me to include some of these flowers down here, which was nice. And then I included this tree right over here on the side, just to add a little bit of balance to the composition since it's so heavily weighted on the mountains. Over to the right side here, I wanted to add some balance to the left side. So I put this tree over on the very corner. Then obviously I have the Grand Teton right here, and just part of the range right here, and then you can see the nice golden lighting coming in and everything. I just really like how it came out. It's got nice colors, it had nice lighting, and I think the composition I was able to balance pretty well, all things considered. Didn't want to put the Grand in the center of the frame, but wanted something to balance it, so I added this tree in. I think that came out really nicely, and also I think getting low and adding some foreground in here with the flowers really helped the photo out. As far as the settings on this one, I was at 1/200th of a second. The shot was handheld. 100 millimeters, f5.6, and ISO 640. So on all of these, basically I shot at 5.6. That's really my favorite sweet spot to shoot at, because right there you can get a lot in focus, but not too much in focus. You can still get that nice background blur or foreground blur, but you can get a lot of focus on your subject as well and put a lot of the subject in focus. So that's why I like to shoot at 5.6 a lot. Even though I was at 100 millimeters here, I could have gone smaller, could have gone down to 4.5, could have gone less and been able to lower my ISOs, but wanted to keep that 5.6 to have a little bit more depth of field there and have a little more in focus. I think it worked out, so really happy with that photo as well. And what was that? Number 6. So now we're moving, or sorry, that was number 7. So now we're moving on to number 6, the 6th photo on the list here. And that one is going to be this shot of a prairie dog in the Badlands. And this is actually one that I only discovered recently. As I was looking back through some of my photos, I was like, holy crap, I did not see this on my first go through looking at my photos. This is a great photo. I really like this one. I like that you have the prairie dog gesture is perfect here. The focus is nailed. I mean, this right here shows you how perfect and how tack sharp that 100 to 400 can be. I mean, look at that zoomed in. The detail in that eye, each little individual strand of fur. I mean, it's just such a great lens. The detail in the dirt down here. I mean, yeah, this lens is just a stellar lens. And because I was at 400, I got some nice background blur there, so really nice bokeh back there. But you can see here he was on top of a den. There's actually another prairie dog. You can barely see the fur right there sticking up that was down inside of the hole. And a nice little bit of grass right here to add a little splash of color to an otherwise brown photo. Nice colors in his fur. And then the stick back here, I really wish it wasn't there. That's one thing I don't like about the photo. It would be ranked a little higher if it wasn't for that stick. But yeah, that detracts a little bit, is a little bit distracting. And I also feel like it's a little bit too weighted to the right side with these plants and the prairie dog being over here and the stick. I would like if this greenery was pushed more over here. That would have added a little more balance to it. But overall, I still think it's a good photo. I like the composition and the look of the photo. But it's not perfect. It could have been higher if a few of those little elements that I just mentioned had been changed. But overall, still really do love this photo. So that's number 6. Settings on this were 1/400th of a second, f5.6 at 400 millimeters. ISO 1250, so had to go up there a little bit on ISOs here. I definitely did denoise this. I specifically remember running this through the denoise software that I have on here, which I plan on doing a video on that software soon. It's really good, and that really helped smooth that bokeh out and really make the prairie dog here pop. So yeah, that's that photo. And now moving on to number 5, we're moving into the top 5 here. You can see I have this photo that I took of the black bear in Yellowstone. This is a really awesome photo too. I love the composition here, the way the bear is set off to this side, and you've got these nice purple white flowers in here just kind of dotting the grasses. A nice green grass adds some contrast to this extremely dark bear. Really like how that contrasts, and then just the gesture of the bear here is really good too. He's kind of looking down, or he's got his head down, but he's looking up at the crowd of people. And yeah, he's just got great stance, a great gesture here. You can see the front 2 legs, you can see the back 2 legs clearly, just really nailed that. And then the fur is just really matted, and there's a lot of detail in it and a lot of different color in it, and I really like that. And overall, this was definitely the best black bear shot I got out of the 15 minutes or so I spent shooting this black bear. And you know, it's a simple portrait, but it's a nice portrait. Sometimes those are the best kind, and yeah, I'm really happy with that photo. So that's number 5. My settings on this were 1/400th, f5.6, ISO 800 and 400 millimeters. Same things as usual. Had to shoot at 5.6 to get at 400 millimeters. 5.6 is the lowest you can go. Plus it put the whole bear in focus. I would have, if I could have shot a little lower, like f4, even f2.8, I would have shot at it, because the grass back here, this was on a hillside, so the grass was close. And it's a little bit more in focus than I would like. I would like some more separation back there. So I would have liked to shoot at a little bit of a wider aperture, but since I couldn't, 5.6 works, and I still think it's a great photo. Now moving on. Moving in to number 4 here, we have a really awesome photo here, and really what is a once-in-a-lifetime photo with the stars over the Teton Range and Comet Neowise over the Teton Range here. This photo is a happy accident, a very, very happy accident. We went out, and my plan was to shoot Neowise over the Tetons, and which Neowise is in this, so I guess technically I did in this photo. But this was a test shot. This was one that I was like, you know what, let's set this up, let's get my settings right, let's see what I need to really get these stars right, to get my focus somewhere dialed in. And so this was a test shot to do that, and it turned out being the only salvageable shot from the night. I had some that I tried to shoot with the 400 of Neowise right over the Grand, and they didn't turn out at all. They turned out really bad. I had my settings messed up and my focus wrong. So those didn't turn out, but this one did, and it turned out really awesome. And you can just see the entire Teton Range here. You can see the Grand Teton there, Mount Moran right over here, and then obviously all these stars that are dotting the sky above here, which is just so awesome. The sun had set like an hour or two before this, so you can see that's why you got that blue light over the Tetons, which is really nice, because that allowed to kind of highlight the Tetons and make them stand out, as opposed to if it was black like up here. So that was a really nice, like I said, happy accident totally. And then Neowise is right over here in the corner coming down. Just to really top the photo off, you've got it right here, which is just awesome, and a once-in-a-lifetime event, like I said, because Neowise is not going to come around again in our lifetime. So got lucky with that, and then there's even a shooting star right here in the photo. So this one was just totally a test shot that turned out to be the best shot of the night and my best astrophotography shot ever. And definitely a memory I'll never forget, because seeing Neowise over the Teton Range, that was a happy accident in the first place, because we didn't even know Neowise was a thing until we were in the Tetons, and people were like, holy crap, you got to go shoot Neowise tonight, other photographers. And I was like, what's Neowise? And then it was this awesome comment. So, you know, it was totally by accident. Had no idea this was going to be there. Did not plan this at all. And it just worked out. And, yeah, really, really just once-in-a-lifetime shot, like I said. But my settings on this were 20 seconds, f3.5, 18 millimeters. This was on my 1855. And ISO 5000. And then I applied some heavy denoising. And you can see I was able to really smooth that picture out. There was a lot of grain in this image, but this denoise software, I'm going to show you it in a future video. It's coming up, I promise. It's good. It's really good. It was able to smooth out 5000 ISO, which is crazy. So I'll show you that, like I said, in a future video. But moving on now to number 3. We're getting into the top 3 here, guys. This is one that you saw in my most recent video, and this is the only one from my Colorado trip. This is of the tree at Black Canyon of the Gunnison. You know, if you watched that video, you saw all my thoughts on this. I'll link that up above so you can kind of just see some other photos I took and see why this is my favorite in a little more depth. But basically, really like the composition, really like the placement of the tree. We've got nice foreground here with the tree and these rocks and these bushes. You get into the midground right in here, and the background with the mountains and the lighting and the clouds back here. It's a really well balanced image, despite the fact that the focus is totally over here on the right. You get a lot of balance because you have the mountains and this nice like glowing the yellow area that sticks out right over here in the clouds, and all the cloud formations over here just really help balance the photo out well, and everything just worked out here. The contrast of the blue and the golden light just was perfect. The cloud formations, everything worked out. Composition was good and everything, and yeah, it just turned out to be an awesome photo, and one of my very best landscape shots, but not as good as photo number 2. So let's move into photo number 2. Actually, let's look at the settings first. This was at 1/25th of a second, f10, 25 millimeters, and ISO 100. I could have swore this was handheld, but I don't know how I handheld this at 1/25th, unless my image stabilization, I have no idea. It would be a miracle if this was this sharp at 1/25th of a second handheld. So I imagine I must have put it on the tripod. I thought it was handheld, maybe not. It must have been on the tripod. So anyways, yeah, that's the settings on this one. Turned out pretty good. Now moving in though to number 2. Here it is. It's the picture that you see hanging right there on the wall. The photo of the Teton Range from Schwabacher Landing. This just was an epic morning of photography. The lighting was perfect on the mountains. You had that perfect pink alpine glow right there. It just really lit the range up. And, you know, this photo honestly made itself. Didn't have to do anything except put my exposure correct. I mean, the composition was there when I walked up. You had nice balance with these trees over here and the mountains over here. You have the nice reflection in the river down here. Nice foreground with the river and with this little bit of land here. Nice midground, and then the background with the mountains. I mean, it all worked out. The trees balance the mountains pretty well, like I said, but not too much. You can still tell that the mountains are the main focus of the image. And obviously the Teton Range always looks perfect. And the perfect pink light that was hitting the tops of them just made the image. And I basically, all I had to do was set the exposure and press the shutter down. And this was just the perfect picturesque setting already. So love this image. This is definitely my favorite landscape image I've ever taken. This is just the quintessential Tetons here. Schwabacher Landing is a really famous photo spot. From the moment I saw it, I said, you know what, I'm going to go there this summer, and I'm going to take one there with the river, with the mountains, in the morning with the light hitting them, the trees balancing the mountains out. I had this composition planned out before I ever went, and I went and was able to execute it, and I'm really happy with how the image turned out. And my settings on this were 1/10 of a second. This was on a tripod, f9, 27 millimeters, and ISO 100. So pretty simple settings. This was on the 18-55 kit lens that I have, and turned out pretty sharp, all things considered, on that kit lens. So that's nice. Nice detail in the mountains and everything. And yeah, happy with that image. Now, moving into number 1, you've probably already guessed what number 1 is. It is the image of the black wolf in Hayden Valley. This was just the perfect experience. I mean, this was the best moment of the entire trip, and one of my best moments ever out west, period, or on any vacation. This was just unbelievable. You know the story if you've watched my Yellowstone wolf video. That's another one I'll link up here in the cards. Basically, we thought we weren't going to see any more wolves, and there's a huge traffic jam, and here comes a wolf, and it's 25 yards away from me. I'm shooting as it crosses the road. It crosses, it stops on this hillside, looks back, and that's when I shoot this shot. And yeah, it couldn't have been more perfect. The wolf was in the perfect position. I nailed focus on its face and set it off a little bit to the right side here to put the face in the center of the frame and the rest of the body over here. You never really want your subject dead center frame, so I kind of offset him a little bit there, and yeah, it was great. You've got some nice blur back there on the hillside behind him, and that's a different shade of green that really makes him pop. And then the sagebrush up here is a little bit lighter that he's standing in. That's a little more in focus. And obviously the wolf is in focus, and all that combined just made for the perfect portrait of this black wolf here from the Wapiti pack. And there's really not much to say besides this was an awesome image. As soon as he looked back and I started firing away, I knew I'd just taken the best image I've ever taken before. And it was an awesome moment. And my settings on this were 1/500th of a second. Like I said earlier on the first wolf shot that I showed you, wanted to really, really nail that tack sharp focus on him and freeze the motion. So shot that pretty fast at 1/500th, but also wanted to keep my ISOs low, so I had them at 250. Would have liked to have a little bit faster shutter speed, but didn't want to put the ISOs up, so I stuck with that. 500th worked pretty well, as you can see here in the image, and then f5.6 at 400 millimeters, and heavily cropped on this version of it. It was a lot more wider with 400 millimeters. It just, even with 400, you don't have the range to shoot wolves really, even when they're close. But I was able to crop it in and still get a really nice sharp image there of this wolf. So yeah, that's about all, guys. That is the image, and that is all of the photos that I took. Or at least the top 10 photos that I took this year. And like I said, very happy with all these. Really like how they all turned out. And just as a quick retrospective on the year of 2020 for photography, it's been great for me. I've really enjoyed it, and was able to take some awesome photos. And I'm looking forward to taking even more awesome photos in 2021. So here's to 2021 being a better year for all of us. Hopefully things are going to start looking better in the world, and 2021 is going to be awesome. This is the last video of 2020 for me to close it out. And all I've got to say is thank you all so much for watching. It's been a great start to the channel this year, and I am hoping for some big things next year. I have a video coming out tomorrow about my plans for next year, and yeah, should be exciting. So thank you all so much for watching this video. Thank you all for watching throughout this year and for your support. Please do not forget to like and share this video. Comment down below which of these 10 images is your favorite. Also, most importantly, don't forget to subscribe. You know the drill. Manatee giveaway. It's coming. 1,000 subscribers. When I hit 1,000 subscribers, one of you will get to go to Florida with me to swim with manatees, totally for free. All you have to do is press the subscribe button and you're entered for that giveaway. So hit that down below. And yeah, guys, I'll see you all in the next video tomorrow in 2021. This is it for 2020. See you then, guys.